All right. This is our baby meat birds. And I want you to kind of see the top of this container. We have a tub, a big rubber tub. It's out here in the garage by our garage door. And I've got a baby gate on top of it. And I have a little cover on the top of it to help keep the chicks warm. People that have never had meat birds before to see that you have to keep something on the top of them to keep them from jumping out. The meat birds not so much, but any other little birds you want to have in the brooder situation. It's summer here, so you don't have to have a whole lot of heat. I prefer getting my meat birds in June or July, or even August, because then I don't have to have too much heat on them in order to get them to stay warm enough. They can just kind of stay warm enough by themselves. This is the way we have it set up. I've got a drip bottle for their drinker. I love them compared to a regular water bottle. They have a hanging feeder, which makes them stand up and move a lot more than a stationary feeder does, because they're all the time having to kind of chase it when it wiggles. Anything I can do to get my meat birds moving, I like to do. As you can see, I got some of them over here warming up underneath the light. But there are 30 meat bird chicks in here right now. And that's about what my family takes to raise a year. We do about 30 a year, and that's plenty for our family. I wanted to show them to you. We're going to get a little bit of a start on them. These are the Cornish cross meat birds. You hear me talking about Cornish birds a lot, but the other Cornish that I have are the heritage Cornish. These birds are a hybrid. It's a white Cornish crossed with a white rock. And there are special lines of each that have been bred to grow really big. And that's why what they call the Frankenbergs, the Cornish cross meat birds, are so good at gaining weight and doing well. It's been years of breeding. These chicks are about a week old, and in about another week they're going to go out, well, week to 2 weeks depending. They will go out into my grass-fed unit, but they have to be a little bit bigger and a little bit better feathered first. One thing I would like to show you about these birds, I can't show you because it's how bad they stink. Oh my goodness. These birds are clean. We cleaned out their pen completely yesterday. There's very little manure in here, but Cornish cross have a stench all their own. So if you've never raised meat birds, you need to be sure and have them someplace where you can stand the stench. The other thing to consider about that is, though, you want them to be someplace where they're safe, because if there are mice or rats able to get into here, or skunks or anything else, they will get eaten up. So you just have to be really aware. You have to be safe and ventilated. But that's the Cornish rocks. I just wanted to kind of get you started. Hopefully be able to show you as these things grow and how fast they grow and how they do. But we bought our Cornish rocks from Welp's Hatchery. I'll enclose the link in the description. I really like their birds. So this is what progress looks like. The baby chicks are 14 days old, and we moved them outside today. what you're seeing is the baby chicks, and they are in the pasture pen now. These chicks are 14 days old, and we are expecting temperatures in the upper 80s to low, well, I think it's at mid 70s at night, and no rain for the next week. So that means that these babies are good to go ahead and go on out. They've been in the brooder for the last 2 weeks. They're just 2 weeks old. These are the Cornish cross chicks, and there are 29 of them in here. We had 30 originally, and one of them died. That's kind of a normal thing to lose a few at the beginning. But anyway, these little guys are out here in this pasture pen. I like to get my chicks in July or August because the weather's warm. I don't have so much worry about them as far as staying warm. How they're in this coop, I think you can see that I've made this little pasture pen. I have a link about how it's been made on the website, on the channel. I can link the web here. But these babies are in this little coop. It's made out of pig panels, and then we have chicken wire on the inside of it, and as you can see, the back half of it is covered as a shelter. There is shade cloth on the top, and I also have a shade cloth curtain in the middle there. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's halfway in the middle where that covered portion is. That way, if there's driving rain or something, they can get back and they get out of the rain completely. It keeps them dry. In the middle of it, there are also a couple of perches. Not that the meat birds will usually use them, but they can if they want to. It'll help keep them up off the ground. Now, what keeps these little guys safe is the electric fence charger. I have a hot wire all the way around at the base of this coop. I think you can see the little insulators. It goes all the way around. You can see it maybe. And what that does is, if you have a predator out here wanting to come and have a little chicken for dinner, they get zapped and they leave them alone. And believe you me, when you've got a fence charger that's designed for a garden space, I think this fence charger is supposed to do, where's the fence charger? I think it's supposed to do up to half a mile of fence. And I've just got it right around this little coop. So this baby hits and hits hard, but it keeps them safe. And that's what's important. Now I just got to do that about 20 more times and they'll be ready to eat. Here we are in the meat bird pen, looking at our finished product. Here we are at the end of the road of our meat birds. I had 31 birds when we very much started, little baby chicks. And one of them died like the very next day of shipment. And one of them died about 2 or 3 days in. So I had 29 meat birds left. And that happens when they first are moved and you're first hatched out. Not all chicks, even if a mama hen raises them, not all the chicks are going to be able to eat, be vibrant, and be healthy enough and strong enough after the hatching to survive. And then you combine that with shipping birds, which is a little stressful on them. Nobody will quite admit to that, but it is. But you ship them.
across country, and sometimes that stresses them and you lose a couple. But sometimes it's just a matter of going from where they're absorbing. When a chick is first hatched, they absorb the last bit of nutrients that's in the yolk right before they're hatched. And that's nutrient and water and everything enough to keep them alive for like 3 days or 4 days without any food or any water. The reason that they're designed that way is so that a hen can sit on her nest and keep all the chicks together until the final eggs are hatched out of her clutch. When all the chicks are hatched and dry, then she can take all of her baby chicks out and feed them. Hatcheries take advantage of this when they're selling birds because they can ship a baby chick within the first 2 or 3 days of its life without providing any food or water for them in their shipment containers. So when you get a shipment of chicks, sometimes even then they go from they've not eaten anything or drank anything really until they come to your house. And sometimes when they first start eating and drinking, they don't always eat and drink like they should. And that's when you'll lose a few also. But anyway, there were 29 viable meat birds. I've been moving this little meat container that I have that is 4 by 8, and I've been moving it around the pasture. As they're small, you only have to move it about once every 2 or 3 days. The bigger they get, the more often you have to move it. When it was full, right before they're ready to butcher, and you've got 29 birds in there, it's probably what I would call overcrowded, definitely. But I make up for that by moving them 2 to 3 times a day at that point, so they're on constant fresh grass. And then I take out, this is how I just do it, I take out usually the 8 largest the first time and have those chickens be the first ones I harvest. When you take out 8, then that opens up the coop space a lot more. I still need to move them 2 times a day at that point. And usually within the first week, I'll take out 8 more birds. And then you've got a good enough space that they're really kind of good to go for a little while. They're not as, where they're overcrowded or anything anymore. But there's only probably, with this small of a coop, and the reason I have it this small is because just me, I can't hardly move anything if it's much bigger than this. But, or, you could get a few less birds. Probably if you started with 20 birds to start off with, you'd never have the problem of this coop being overcrowded. But it will overcrowd on me, so I've really got to watch it. But when I get down to, 12 birds in this space and moving it every day, they can stay that way for quite a while if need be.
some of you wonder why we do what we do. This is why we do what we do. I have a whole freezer just full to the top with chicken. Hooray!